What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing another showcase style video for Versus Ace this time. I would have uploaded my Akainu video either yesterday or the day before. Hopefully you guys have checked that video out where I talk about the full-on positives and negatives of that character, and that unit is absolutely awesome. And if you guys want to see my thoughts and opinions on that character in my fullest opinion, go ahead and check out that video. But today, we're focusing more on the Ace side of things. So, Versus Ace has some mechanics that are similar, but also definitely some other different mechanics, just comparing the two units in one, of Ace and Akainu. So, let's start things off with the positives, okay? So, with Versus Ace, he's a 5x flat captain to both Shooter and Free Spirit. He has phenomenal synergy with some of the other Free Spirit units that are in the game. Namely, like, Roger is like one of the ones that comes to mind straight away because of his amazing special that can grant an orb boost, extending the orb boost, you know, for making it like a 2-turn into a 3-turn. You can carry it over multiple different stages. And of course, Ace is one of those characters that can proc Roger's super type. So great synergy there with those two characters. And you guys will be seeing in the next clip against the Arena Bonkichi, I actually go ahead and use a synergy hybrid team of having Captain Ace with Roger as our friend captain, and it works very, very well. However, on the other side of things for shooter characters, obviously shooter is like not one of the best classes in the game. We all kind of understand that, but there are going to be more characters that come out in the future that will make that class even better. Namely, like Magellan, who should be coming out relatively soon to One Piece Treasure Cruise Global, as well as the Fire Tank Pirates, which are a Kizuna Sugo Fest exclusive character. They are shooter and driven based, actually, so they work with both Ace and Akainu. And actually, technically speaking, so does the Magellan as well, who is a powerhouse and a shooter character. So Magellan and the Fire Tank Pirates are characters that you may want to look out for if you want to continuously use characters like Versus Ace and Versus Akainu. Another thing is they also have a 1.3 times health boost, which gives your added shooters and Free Spirit characters some added tankiness, and increases the chances of you getting your matching slots, because Ace does make strength decks and quick slots count as beneficial to your crew, so that's really nice to have. However, he doesn't outright increase the chances of those slots appearing, which may make getting that Versus effect a little bit annoying, because for short form content you need to consume 12 strength decks or quick slots, and that can be difficult at times if you're in short form content like an arena or a clash event. But obviously for GART challenges and other high difficulty content, that shouldn't be too difficult in order to get those particular Versus effects getting ready to activate. Another really cool thing that Versus Ace has is the ability to resist 10 turns of special reverse. So Ace has this effect, whereas the Akainu has the added effect of anytime he takes damage, he inflicts the enemy with the ignition or the ignited status. So that's the difference between these two characters. You know, Ace has a bit of utility, whereas Akainu has the ability to debuff the enemy just off the bat, which is actually a really, really cool effect, right? So, you know, there's give and take for both of these particular effects. And another thing about Ace is that his special is incredibly powerful, right? So it gives you really good AoE damage. It also does a full board of matching slots to your crew, and it gives you a 2.5 times orb boost to Shooter and Free Spirit. And like, the more you look at this character, like the more it just like comes to realize that this character is basically a buffed version of Luffy and Ace, the dual unit that came out in like what, 2017, 2018, something like that. This character is basically a buffed version of that unit, right? But there is also that added effect that if your captain has a strength slot when you launch the special, you go ahead and get a chain boundary effect where it starts your chain at 2.5 and it goes all the way up to a 35 times as the max cap for that particular chain boundary. This is a fantastic ability and allows you to get so much extra damage for free, and obviously works very well with other chain boosting effects as well. So this is great. I love that. However, there is a few negatives that come with that chain boundary effect, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in this video. His Versus effect also is very, very good. So it does require you, as we said earlier, 12 strength decks or quick slots, but it ignites enemies for 2 turns. It does not go through immunity, which is obviously a big downside, but igniting them for 2 turns, which is great in and of itself. As you'll see, once we kill Bonkichi, the ignition will just kill him, which is great. But also it changes Block Bomb, Tandem Recovery G, and his own slot into a strength slot. So that's also a really, really cool effect. But also giving himself the 2 times conditional against the ignited enemies, which Akainu only gives a 1.75 times conditional against ignited enemies. So it's a bit of a difference there. Ace has a better conditional, but Akainu is able to apply the conditional easier and also through immunity. So take that as you will. But his versus effect has great synergy if he is a crewmate, actually, because he has a crewmate effect that states that he makes strength slots beneficial to all characters on your team. So just having an effect like that means that, you know, if you use his versus effect as a crewmate, any block, bomb, G, tandem, recovery slots that you get just changed into strength, and they're going to be counted as beneficial to your team, which is like really, really nice to have. So versus Ace has a great special, captain, and versus effect, but he also has access to really good ships as well because he is a free spirit character. You can use the Oro Jackson, for example, if you've got a full free spirit team. You could go ahead and use the Nostra Castello for your strength sign-in team as well if you run a predominant amount of those. Liberal Hind is obviously a go-to ship that you'll see in nearly all of these clips here today. Shark Superb for Kizuna Clash, for example. Polar Tang is another decent free spirit ship, and also the Kizaru ship if you end up opting for a shooter-based team. And just briefly before we talk about the negatives of the character, we can quickly talk about a couple of key support units that Ace also gets access to. One of the new characters that will be arriving very soon is the new Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine unit that gives your strength and shooter characters an attack boost. Plus, you also get a bit of utility from that as well. And speaking of utility, you have access to Quickbeard, for example, which allows you to get rid of Despair, which is pretty good. And also, in terms of getting rid of Hunger, you can obviously use a lot of crewmates to get rid of Hunger, but you have the Int Otama, which can attach to a unit that does damage, and it changes some of your slots around to recovery, so you can go ahead and get rid of Hunger by consuming some of those recovery slots. And also, so the new Strength Jozu from the Rare Recruit batch also allows you to get rid of some attack down. So just a nice piece of added utility. And in terms of like increasing damage, we also talked about the Mr. 5 character, but you've also got access to characters such as Quick Lucci for shooter color affinity. You've got Strength Kid for strength color affinity, and if you were lucky enough to get the treasure map Rare Recruit Vivi from quite a few treasure maps ago, that's a really good one for your free spirit characters. One that I wish I had personally, but usually Strength Kid is enough to get the job done, which is good. So there are obviously quite a lot of things to like about this Ace character, but let's talk about some of the things that I personally do not like, or are just outright negatives to this character. First of all is the fact that his ignited status cannot inflict enemies if they have a full immunity buff, so that's obviously a pretty big downside. But a majority of the time, anytime you are able to use it, like, it's just absolutely insane, as you can get, you know, a 2x affinity and like a huge orb boost from all of the effects being activated. But, you know, if they've got that full immunity, you're in a little bit of a troubled state, because it just makes his versus effect essentially like a glorified orb change, and that's basically it. Another thing we kind of touched up on earlier, but his chain boundary effect from his special only requiring your captain slot to specifically be a strength slot, that honestly really does suck, because it can be a little bit problematic if you have versus Ace as a crewmate, meaning that you need your captain to somehow get a strength slot. Now, if your captain gets like a block orb or a tandem orb or something, obviously the versus effect will change that into strength. That works very, very well, but I mean, outside of that, it may be a little bit difficult, because you can't even run like Akainu support, for example, on your team, because it's an Ace versus Akainu character, so that obviously is a little bit of a downside. So it may be a little bit difficult in order to get that strength slot, but if you are able to get it, obviously you get huge benefits from that. Also, Ace doesn't have like that many OP supports, so when we talked about before we, you know, jumped into the negatives of the character, you know, a lot of them were just, it's not a very big amount of characters you have access to. It's a very, very small array. So I would honestly like some more Ace support characters coming out in the future, but we'll have to wait and see how that kind of goes. But I definitely think that Ace kind of lacks in the support department, and honestly, Akainu does as well. Akainu kind of lacks some really good supports too, but you know, it's not too bad of a drawback, considering this character is just absolutely insane with all of the other effects that they get access to. And something also is, you know, we kind of touched up on it a little bit earlier, but the shooter class in general is like one of the worst classes in the game. They will be getting better and better over time. You know, as we said, you know, Legend Magellan is going to be good. The Fire Tank Pirates are also a really good character for the shooter class in general. But honestly, when you're using versus Ace, like 99% of the time you're using him, you're going to be building a free spirit based team around him. Like a majority of the characters that you run on his teams will be free spirit. Obviously, there's going to be the offshoot chance you're going to be running some shooters, like a Stampede Buggy, for example, is a really good unit, like Colosseum and Nail, for example. Like, there are certain instances where you will need to use some shooter characters, but a majority of the time the free spirit characters are the way to go. And it's just kind of annoying, because like versus Akainu can effectively use both of his classes a majority of the time, but with versus Ace, it's just like typically you're going to be using free spirit. It's just the way that it kind of goes, right? But with all of that being said, those are my overall positives and negatives of this character. And majority of the things we talked about are going to be the positives. This unit is absolutely crazy good. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today, and if you guys did enjoy it, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the content that I post on my channel, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.